I, 46-year-old male, have two children, Fia, 13 years old female, and Kale, 10 years old male. Their mom died 5 years ago in a car crash. We had been married at the time, but only legally. For the last 3 years of her life, we were pretending to still be together and we stayed married. But it was all pretending for the kids. We did not want to divorce for our kids' sake. Both of us came from divorced families and what I consider broken homes because of how badly our parents handled the divorces. We didn't want that for the kids. We feared we couldn't do better. The end result was us hating each other. It ran deep too. I regret that now. The last words we exchanged were not kind. Our kids deserve better than that. Better than having parents who hated each other because we were so afraid to divorce. So after she died, I was determined to let go of all that hate, and I was determined to make sure the kids knew they were loved by both parents and were not burdened by the issues we'd had. Their mom and dad both loved them. I truly believe their mom's love still exists for them, and they deserve to know that love. That was what I focused on, so I saved everything of hers for them. It's all stored safely for them one day, and a couple of years after she died, I did remove most of the photos of our married life. But I let the kids keep 2 photos of their choice out in the open in common areas of the house. The rest are either in their room or stored for them with the rest of her stuff. My kids love and miss their mom so much, and it brings them comfort to have her photos out. I make sure they can always talk about her or ask questions. They also have a very close relationship with the 3 siblings she spoke to. This is my children's home above all, and I make sure it always feels that way. When I met my wife, I remarried last year. I told her about the photos and said a partner of mine needed to accept this. She did. We got married. Nobody has taken the photos of my kids and their mom down. But my in-laws do have a problem, and maybe they're speaking on behalf of my wife and she's not open. I'm still figuring that out. They were staying with us on the weekend, and during a dinner, they questioned my kids about keeping the photos out when my wife now lives with us. My kids said they like having photos of their mom they can see in the house. My in-laws began to say that it was inconsiderate of my wife, and they should not be in common areas when I stepped in and shut them down. And I told them that this is still my children's home too, and part of that is displaying photos of their mom in their home where they can be seen. I told them it did not need to be discussed more. The following day, my in-laws said I had no reason to be so rude, and I had an unhealthy attachment to keeping their mom present in their lives when she's dead. They told me they should be allowed to question things about their daughter's home, and I overreacted. Am I the idiot? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. Your current wife knew that they would stay up. It kind of seems like your in-laws are trying to erase your late wife from existence, which is not okay. You were completely right to shut it down. If you were nicer about it, they might have just kept pushing. I would make sure that they know if they are uncomfortable with it, they don't have to come back to your house, but the pictures are not coming down. And if it is coming from your wife through them, she should have decided it wasn't okay with her, and she should have moved on, not get upset later down the road and drag her family into it. Comment 2, not the idiot. I think you are doing a brilliant job of respecting the love that your former wife had for your children and of doing your best to give them what they need. You were right to be clear about the boundaries. Being curious, I would love to know why they think these photographs shouldn't be on display. It sounds as though they are threatened by their presence. If so, in my opinion, this is their problem and they should examine their attitudes. It is perverse to wish to hide away the children's mother. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for reading my last post and for all the support and advice. It's been a tough few days since then, and I wanted to give you all an update on what's been happening. After the confrontation with my in-laws, things got pretty tense around the house. My wife tried to play mediator, but it was clear that she was struggling to balance her loyalty to her parents and her commitment to our family. I thought we had talked things through and were on the same page, but I was wrong. The next day I came home from work to find that all the photos of my late wife had been taken down and replaced with new family photos of me, my wife, and the kids. I was shocked and angry. I couldn't believe that my wife would go behind my back like that, especially after we had agreed to keep the photos up for the kids' sake. When I confronted her about it, she broke down in tears. She said that her parents had been putting a lot of pressure on her to assert her place in our home, and that she felt like she had to choose between them and me. She apologized for not talking to me about it first, but said that she thought it would be easier to just make the change and hope that I would understand. I was hurt and disappointed, but I tried to stay calm. I reminded her of our agreement and explained how important it was to me and the kids to keep their mom's memory alive in our home. I also pointed out that her parents had no right to dictate how we decorated our house or raised our children. We argued back and forth for a while, but eventually we came to a compromise. We would put a few of the photos back up, but in less prominent places. We would also make an effort to include more photos of our new family together, to show that we were all united. It wasn't a perfect solution, but it was a start. Over the next few days, we worked on rebuilding trust and communication. My wife apologized again for going behind my back, and I apologized for not being more understanding of the pressure she was under from her parents. As we talked more, I realized that there were some deeper issues at play. My wife confessed that she had always felt like she was competing with my late wife's memory, even though I had never given her any reason to feel that way. She said that she sometimes worried that I would never love her as much as I had loved my first wife, and that she would always be second best. I was stunned. I had no idea that she had been carrying around these insecurities for so long. I reassured her that I loved her deeply and that she was not competing with anyone. I explained that my love for my late wife was a different kind of love, one that was based on a shared history and the bond of parenthood. My love for my current wife was just as strong, but it was built on our own unique connection and the life we were building together. We both cried and held each other, and I felt like we had finally broken through some of the barriers that had been holding us back. We agreed to keep working on our communication and to prioritize our marriage and our family above all else. Looking back, I realized that I had been so focused on preserving my late wife's memory for the kids that I had neglected to fully embrace my new life with my current wife. I had been holding on to the past in a way that was not healthy for anyone. I know that I will always love and miss my first wife, but I also know that I have to keep moving forward. I'm grateful for the time we had together and for the beautiful children we created, but I'm also excited about the future I'm building with my new wife. It's not going to be easy, and there will probably be more bumps in the road ahead, but I'm committed to making this work for the sake of my marriage, my children, and myself. Thank you all again for your support and advice. It means more than you know. Aita for feeling like an outsider in my dad's house because they erased all signs of my mom. My parents had me, and pretty soon after they divorced. My parents' divorce was not amicable. I, 16-year-old female, don't know all the details obviously, but I know that bad blood exists on both sides. And if you want my suspicions, I think they divorced so badly because my dad wanted to set up his own business, but my mom didn't want that to happen right after me. My dad owns his own business. Actually, he owned two, and the first one he had to close up. The first one he started right after the divorce, which is why I suspect what I do. My dad also complained once or twice that mom never supported him. So there are issues between my parents. When I'm with my mom, you would never know it. She does not vent about dad, badmouth him, or try to hide the fact they were married and had me together. She has some photos of us before the divorce in our living room among the rest of the family photos. And while I have issues with my stepdad, and he's not my favorite person ever, he has never complained or tried to erase the fact he married a woman who had a kid with someone else. He never got that part wrong despite our issues. But my dad's house is so very different. It got worse after he married my stepmom. I'm not supposed to mention my mom at all. They don't let me have anything there that my mom bought, even my favorite plushie that mom bought me as an infant. I can't have a single photo of my mom or my half-siblings on her side. I used to have a little pinboard of photos, and my dad and stepmom went into my room in the past and removed all traces of mom. My stepmom even said she burned the photos of mom. They have told me in their house they do not want to see my mom, and my room is not a compromise. So of course I don't like being here. I spend 50% of my time here, and no, the courts won't let me stop coming, and they would punish my mom if I stop, and the judge told my mom if she does not force me to go and stay, she would pay. After our last attempt a few months ago, Dad started telling me I don't treat my room like my room, or I don't act like it's my home. He asked me why I wanted to leave our home. On Sunday, my dad and stepmom told me I act like I'm a guest in their house instead of part of the family, and that it's my home. I told them it's not my home, it's their home. I told them I can't mention my mom or keep a photo of her in my room. I can't do whatever I want with my room like they claim. So no, all of that means this was never my home. I told them I am a guest here half my life, and that's all I will ever be. They told me I was being melodramatic, and my stepmom called me manipulative. Am I the idiot? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. They need to know how you feel because of what they have created. At 16 years old, do the courts not allow you to have a say in where you spend your time? Maybe when custody was first agreed, you may not have gotten a say, but it might be worth asking your mom if it can be looked into. And have you spoken with your mom about the situation and how it is affecting you? Your dad and stepmom are creating a really negative space for you, and it is not healthy. Comment 2. Not the idiot. You are absolutely right. It is not your problem that they cannot see it. If they spent less time hating on your mom and more time trying to build a relationship with you, maybe things could be different. My stepmom even said she burned the photos of mom. This is not normal behavior, by the way. Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for reading my update. It's been a tough few days since I confronted my dad and stepmom about not feeling at home in their house. After our argument on Sunday, the tension in the house was evident. My dad barely spoke to me, and my stepmom kept giving me disapproving looks whenever we crossed paths. On Monday, I overheard my dad on the phone with my mom. He was angry, accusing her of turning me against him and his wife. I couldn't hear my mom's response, but I could tell from my dad's tone that the conversation wasn't going well. Later that evening, my dad called me into the living room for a family meeting. He told me that my behavior was unacceptable and that I needed to start showing more respect to him and my stepmom. He also said that if I couldn't accept their rules, then maybe I shouldn't come over anymore. I was shocked and hurt by his words, but I didn't know how to respond. The next day, I found out from my mom that my dad had called her again, threatening to take her back to court for full custody. Apparently, he believed that my mom was the reason behind my disrespectful attitude. My mom was furious and told me that she wouldn't let that happen. She said she'd fight for me no matter what. As I tried to process everything that was happening, I started to remember some things from my childhood that I had pushed to the back of my mind. I recalled a particularly heated argument between my parents when I was about 5 years old. They were screaming at each other, and I remember my dad saying something about my mom holding him back from his dreams. At the time, I didn't understand what he meant, but now I realize he was probably talking about his business ventures. I also remembered a conversation I had with my mom a few years ago when I asked her why she and my dad got divorced. She hesitated before telling me that they had different priorities and that my dad had made some choices that she couldn't support. She didn't go into detail, but I got the sense that there was more to the story than she was letting on. By Wednesday, the atmosphere in my dad's house was unbearable. My stepmom barely acknowledged my presence, and my dad only spoke to me when necessary. I felt like a stranger in their home, more so than ever before. I couldn't wait to go back to my mom's house, where I knew I was loved and accepted for who I am. When I finally got home to my mom's, I broke down and told her everything that had happened. She held me as I cried, reassuring me that none of this was my fault. She promised that she would always be there for me, no matter what my dad or anyone else said. Looking back on the past few days, I realized that my dad and stepmom's actions have only reinforced my feelings of not belonging in their home. Their unwillingness to accept my mom as a part of my life and their attempts to control my every move have made it clear that they don't truly see me as a member of their family. I know that the road ahead won't be easy, especially if my dad follows through on his threat to take my mom back to court. But I also know that I have my mom's love and support, and that's what matters most. No matter what happens, I'll always be grateful for the home and family that she's given me. Thanks for listening to my update. It's been a challenging few days, but I'm hopeful that things will get better with time. Aita for not telling my mother-in-law she couldn't buy prizes at the fun fair? I went to a local fun fair with my kids and mother-in-law, Emil. We decided to walk around looking at all the rides before deciding what to go on. Mother-in-law had forgotten her wallet, so it would be me buying any rides. This let me relax about the sometimes tricky dynamic of who is paying for what, As we walked past a prize stall, pay money to win a prize, mother-in-law commented in shock at the high price, and I agreed. At the next ride, my husband joined us. He and I were chatting when we noticed that mother-in-law had gone back to the previous prize stall with the kids. He asked urgently what I had agreed with her about that stall, and I, slightly confused at his urgency, remembered we had both thought it was overpriced. I knew she didn't have money on her, so I assumed they had just gone back to look. We have disagreed with mother-in-law many times about her excessive, in our view, gifts for the kids. Each visit, she buys toys that soon get discarded or more sweets and snacks than the kids can eat. This is important to us because A, we want to teach the kids moderation and value rather than excessive disposable expenditure. B, we are worried about the environment and the excess of toys contributes to landfill. C, while she has the right to use her money, the amount spent on this stuff feels wasteful when it could be used for more lasting things for the kids. Back to the fun fair. My husband insisted I tell him what I had agreed with mother-in-law. We hadn't agreed on anything, I told him. We agreed it was priced too high? I then noticed she had taken out her phone to pay using her contactless payment. Husband said he didn't want her buying it, and I said he should go tell her. He insisted he didn't want to do that before finding out what I had agreed with her. I told him if he could see what was happening, he should go and stop her. By now it was finished, and I said, look, it's done now. It's her money to spend, and if she wants to have fun with the kids by spending $15 on a prize stall, that's up to her, and that I hadn't agreed anything with her, as I believe she had forgotten her wallet. After we got home, he picked a huge fight with me, telling me he was really distressed by the landfill of the prizes, the toys are already falling apart, and the repeated messages this kind of spending sends to the kids about the value of things. His main complaint at me is that when we first saw the stall, before he joined us, he insists I should have told mother-in-law not to buy it for the kids. And the facts that, A, I believe she had no means of paying, and B, had commented on how overpriced it was were not relevant. I still should explicitly have said that we didn't want her to buy anything. I think this is unreasonable and would have made things really awkward at what was supposed to be a fun outing. He says it's my fault that mother-in-law spent her money on poor quality prizes which will be landfilled by next week. Was it my fault? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1, not the idiot, his mother, his problem, his responsibility to address her behavior, especially in the moment. The message about how her behavior is not what you want for the kids needs to come from both of you as a united front, and it will absolutely have more weight coming from him. And if he hadn't been so focused on insisting you do it, she might not have been able to buy the toys. Comment 2, not the idiot, it was a fair. Of course the kids want to play the games for prizes. Again, it's a fair. If your husband is this uptight, then he shouldn't have agreed on going to a fair at all. And you and mother-in-law didn't come to an agreement that she couldn't treat the kids to one of the most fun things available at a fair. Now for the update. Hey everyone, it's been a while since my last post and a lot has happened in the past 3 months. After the fun fair incident, tensions between my husband and I remained high for several weeks. He continued to insist that I should have explicitly told my mother-in-law not to buy anything at the prize stall, even though I believe she had no means of paying and had already commented on how overpriced it was. I tried to explain my perspective, but he remained fixated on the idea that I was somehow responsible for her spending choices. As the weeks went by, my husband's frustration seemed to grow. He started bringing up past instances where he felt I hadn't been firm enough with my mother-in-law about her excessive gift-giving. I began to realize that this wasn't just about the fun fair incident, but a deeper issue that had been brewing for some time. One evening, after the kids were in bed, we finally had a heart-to-heart talk. My husband confessed that he felt like I often prioritized avoiding awkwardness with my mother-in-law over standing up for our shared values as parents. He worried that by not consistently enforcing boundaries, we were sending mixed messages to our kids about the importance of moderation and environmental responsibility. As I listened to his concerns, I couldn't help but reflect on my own upbringing. Growing up, my family had always emphasized keeping the peace and avoiding confrontation at all costs. I realized that this tendency had carried over into my adult relationships, sometimes at the expense of asserting my own needs and beliefs. With this new insight, I apologize to my husband for not being more proactive in communicating our parenting values to my mother-in-law. I acknowledge that while I couldn't control her spending habits, I could be clearer about our expectations and boundaries when it came to gifts for our children. We agreed to have a respectful but firm conversation with my mother-in-law about our concerns. To our surprise, she was more receptive than we anticipated. She admitted that she often got carried away with buying presents for the grandkids as a way of showing her love, but understood that it was important to respect our parenting choices. Since then, we've noticed a positive shift in our family dynamics. My mother-in-law has been more mindful about the types and quantity of gifts she brings, and we've made an effort to suggest alternative ways she can bond with the kids, like taking them on special outings or teaching them new skills. Looking back, I realized that the funfair incident was a turning point in our relationship. It forced us to confront some long-standing issues and have difficult but necessary conversations. While it wasn't always easy, I'm grateful for the opportunity to grow as a partner and parent. Of course, there are still moments of tension and disagreement, but we're learning to navigate them with more open communication and mutual understanding. Just the other day, my husband and I had a good laugh about a particularly hideous toy my mother-in-law had bought before our talk. It's now become a running joke between us. All in all, the past few months have been a journey of self-reflection, growth, and strengthening our family bonds. I'm excited to see what the future holds as we continue to work together as a team. Thanks for reading and being a part of this community. Your support and advice have been invaluable along the way. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.